I know you.
Guys, when I bought this, I was like, this is something I would wear if it was like a little bit more oversized. I want to cut it. Would it be a good idea to cut it right here?
She liked it actually.
Including me.
Hi everyone. Hello. No. So hi everyone. Good evening and assalamu alaikum. My name is Iman Siddiqui and I'm just filling in for the Director for Gender and Sexual Studies who couldn't make it today. And I've been honored with the privilege of introducing my dear friend and accomplished author and professor, Dr. Fawzia Afzal-Khan. Fawzia is wonderful. You'll hear more about her. She's written 7 books to date and more in the works. And today we're all gathered here to celebrate the launch of her book, which celebrates women singers in Pakistan. So, and you know, everybody, people who brought this program together are Sheetal and Morgan. So thanks guys for putting it all together. And Fawzia's team too. So Fawzia, over to you to just take the floor.
I think what we'll do, yeah. Thank you so much, Iman. I'm very sorry that Seamus Khan couldn't be here, but there was some sort of emergency and hope everything is okay, but he couldn't be here this afternoon. But he does send his greetings to everybody and a welcome to all of you. And I am obviously very grateful and honored to be able to conclude a month-long Women's History Month program, even though we are now in April, but we started with a book launch of my latest book, which is a co-edited volume called Feminist Milestones, Milestones in Feminist Performance. And my co-editors were able to join me here, one from Australia, one from Sweden. And so this room really feels like home, second, because we've been having the programs here. And after that, we were able to have a really wonderful program on Palestine as a feminist issue with some, with somebody who, people who came from all over, Palestinians, Palestinian scholars, including somebody who used to teach at the now destroyed Al-Aqsa University, and I know that many of my students here who are here today spoke to me afterwards saying that that was one of the most moving testimonies that they heard, and including his work, Professor Shahada, in gender studies and empowering women according to also Muslim principles. So I think that was really important that we got to hear from him and others. And now finally, I must have been crazy. It's so nice to see so many of my friends. They all know this about me. But 3 programs in a row was a bit much. My students are exhausted. But they are here today and I'm very, very pleased. And I really want to give a big shout out to all of my students from whom I have learned a lot. Thank you so very much for being my students. And I want to really thank Seamus, who, for giving me this opportunity at Princeton, inviting me to teach here. It has, I didn't know quite what to expect, but it has certainly been a wonderful experience, and primarily because of you guys. I also want to thank the team here in the Gender and Sexuality Studies program, Morgan, Sheetal, who has just left, Matt, who was the first one to try and help me figure out my techniques. Thank you so much, all of you. You have been so supportive, and it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to be part of this small but I think very vitally important program, especially in these days, for all the reasons that I don't think need to be said. With that, I'm grateful to my friend Raza Rumi for being here. He will talk to us right after we see a documentary that I made with the help of an NEH grant many years ago. But I thought, since this is a program, that rounds out a discussion about the various important roles that women have played in different societies, and we are actually, in my Images of Muslim Women class, are going to now talk about, we're going to talk about Pakistan. So I thought this was a good way to introduce women who are at the margins or have been considered to be marginal to, in many ways, to Pakistani society, and yet very, very centrally important. So we're going to watch that film, and then I'm going to say a few words about Raza before we start. But let's watch the film first. Okay, thank you, Morgan. I hope you enjoy it. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's a short documentary.
गाना तो मेरे नस-नस में, मेरे खून में है। मैंने जब होश संभाला तो मैं उस वक्त से ये जानती हूँ कि ना मालूम क्यों मैं सुर से अलग नहीं रह सकती।
Fondly known as Madam or Madame, Noor Jahan was given the honorific title of Malika Tarannum, which means Melody Queen, by her legions of fans.
I loved her singing, I loved her voice, and I loved her style.
पुरानी तो वो मैडम नूर जहाँ थी जो इतनी ज़बरदस्त गाती थी, बहुत अच्छी।
And her film, her singing career, they spanned 6 decades, almost the entire history of Pakistan. And to this day, female singers copy her style, her singing style, and her songs endlessly. She began her career in British India at age 9, before the continent's diverse populations were divided up into 2 nations. On the one hand, it was Hindu majority India, and on the other, Muslim Pakistan.
It was the British Commander-in-Chief in 1946 wrote at that time that India must be partitioned into Pakistan and India, because that is what we need to have a buffer against the Soviet Union. And we have to buttress it with the mercenary traditions of the past, coupled with the Islamic injection of the future. Islamic injection was meant to ensure anti-communism.
So early singers like Noor Jahan, who moved to Pakistan, helped to heal the pain of partition, I think. Music forged a new identity by uniting diverse populations who had been brought together in the aftermath of a brutal upheaval. Music became the backdrop of daily life, and its musicians were beloved by all. Music has chronicled all the major events in Pakistan's 64-year-old history, creating a very specific Pakistani sound that has embraced many, many different genres.
If you ask me, it is through women that actually music has been carried forward. I know that's not the popular understanding, because of course the great ustads were all men. Many of the greatest performers that I've seen in my lifetime, ranging from the great classical Roshna Begum to the great ghazal singers, to some of the most popular pop musicians, There have been women.
Pakistan is a country of paradoxes that, where we see a lot of very old values and everything, and yet women who pull off the cultural scene in Pakistan are the female singers and the actresses.
नात सरकार को सुनाते हैं.
Many of the early female singers who came to Pakistan had their roots in courtesan culture of Indian royal courts. And when they moved, many women performing in public were frowned upon because they became associated with prostitution, the courtesans, etc. And so many women singers of the early generation particularly started to deny their origins in that culture, often to protect their children, their families.
My mother was a very private person and never spoke about her personal life. But when her book was published, only then we, her children, got to know a bit about her. She had been employed at the court of Kashmir for many years.
There is a very deep-rooted hypocrisy which is about women who perform. In our context, because women who performed went outside the domestic domain and therefore could not be controlled, the issue there becomes that of fear of women who cannot be controlled.
There was a prejudice, especially when I was a young woman, and the prejudice did not stem from the general public. The prejudice stems from the elite of this country, not from the general masses.
I pretty much abandoned my dreams to become a classical singer on Pakistan's national stage. As the daughter of respectable middle-class household, I realized my family would not approve. Well, I've performed classical music here in the States, as well as on trips back home. And here I've evolved a style of music called East meets West with jazz musicians. Well, I trained in the North Indo-Pakistani classical vocal tradition for many years. I attended the same women's college as did my friend Sara Zaman. She, of course, has always stayed in Pakistan and served the cause of classical music there, although she also did not become a professional singer.
And I would take part in the festivals that where all the big ustads would congregate, and it would be a huge honor to be a part of that. So I've been performing from those forums regularly in the last 20-25 years.
Madame Noor Jahan, Malika Pukhraj, Roshanara Begum Bombay Wali, Farida Khanam, Suraya Multanikar, Iqbal Bano, who were women who defied all the taboos and became really big stars in the 1950s on Radio Pakistan. Then later they became playback singers for burgeoning film industry, and these women really inspired the next generation of female singers, passing on their knowledge to young women like Sarah and me, and endowed us with the passion to learn how to sing.
In the 70s, just after the 1971 war and the debacle in Bangladesh, the mood was very, very low. We had the POWs, so the mood of the country was so somber and so depressed that PTV was trying to have all these taranas on TV, which would uplift the people, uplift the masses. So I remember I recorded this song which played like 1,000,000 times called Agar hai jazba-e tameer zinda, to phir kis cheez ki hum mein kami hai.
We find these female performers being promoted by the state mainly, and then come General Ziaul Haq, and his Islamist politics and everything.
They just wanted to politicize television and radio, and that is exactly what happened. It was Islamization of all media. Women were required to cover their heads.
And we find a very strange transition at that time that women performers like Abida Parveen become very dominant on the scene. She was singing, very forceful Sufi poetry, which was attacking the collusion between the state and the clerics.
There were a few poets who were banned, like Faiz Ahmad Faiz and Ahmad Faraz. You were not allowed to sing them.
And both speak very differently, but they do speak to people. And they speak of their pain, and they speak of justice.
I think more than anything, people ask me कि आप सिर्फ फैज़ क्यों गाती हैं? और मेरा उनको जवाब ये होता है कि मैं सिर्फ फैज़ क्यों ना गाऊं? वो बताने डाले हैं वसवसे के दिलों से ख़ौफ़े खुदा गया.
But strangely enough, a lot of new musicians came up during Zia's time, which was probably the most repressive time. I would say it was a subversive activity on the part of those singers.
In my case, I was banned because I said, I love you all. I just said that to all my fans. That was a little hard time for me because I was banned for 2 years. Lekin ab, for the last couple of years, things have changed drastically because of the security reasons. और पूरी म्यूजिक इंडस्ट्री जो है ना, it's been badly affected. इसलिए कि अब हम सिर्फ कॉर्पोरेट शोज कर रहे हैं मल्टीनेशनल्स वगैरह के, we are not doing concerts, और वो हमारे लिए ऑक्सीजन होती है.
It's again a paradox. It's really a paradox of the corporate culture that despite all its negativities and everything, it's the corporations that are keeping the culture alive through Coke Studio, and women singers, especially the young ones, have a place from where they can get the music out to young audiences.
Dave and Hania and Cheap Minds, yeah, Misha Shafi and all of those Coke Studio, awesome.
This is a singer who made a career in a region where the Pakistan Taliban had emerged as a force throughout the past few years. And despite the Taliban's decree against singing and dancing and anything un-Islamic, she continued to do what she loved, which was singing and making records.
The current Islamic trends, the most aggressive, absurd trends, have no roots. And neither in the minds, nor in the hearts, nor in the motivations of the people. They're still injected.
पहले जब छोटे थे तब वो लता मंगेशकर को सुनते थे, फरीदा खानों को सुनते थे, और खुदा उनका भला करे इकबाल बानों को, और अब जो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कोई ऐसा शौक नहीं है.
The state paid lip service to a certain extreme variety of Islam, which is not Islam, by the way, and it has just pandered to them for purely political reasons.
इस्लाम में गाने बजाने की इजाज़त बिल्कुल नहीं है. म्यूजिक जो है वो शैतान की अलामत बताया जाता है.
I've never felt limited in Pakistan, by Talibanization or the Islamization or anything like that. But maybe it does exist. Maybe if it wasn't there, I'd be doing a hell of a lot more shows and I'd be doing a lot more.
There's enormous resilience in our people. If there's one great asset in Pakistan, it's the people. And I see it demonstrated over and over again, even when they're cowering, even when there is the worst of outrage, even when leaders let them down. Whatever happens, somehow there will be a moment in which one human being will prove that we are okay.
Well, thank you all for, first of all of you for turning out. It's wonderful to see so many people and so many of you from our community here and elsewhere in Westchester. Some friends have come, from quite far away. Some have really come from, somebody has come here from Boston. And so I'm very grateful, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Shahs of Princeton, who also supported a different edit of the film, and which I chose not to show today because I wanted to go back to the original edit. But there are many different edits of the film because this was sponsored by the National Endowment of the Humanities, which has now been completely axed. Doged, that's the word. So I was lucky to get the funding, and then I made this, and then we raised funds from the community, from other sources. I was trying to get it into a full production for PBS. But getting from this stage to full production is very difficult, and also I think it's very interesting. One of the reasons I chose not to show the other one, as Raza and I were discussing, was because, or at least one of them, which has won a lot of awards, is because that edit panders to a very particular kind of audience, and it also wants to tell the story from one point of view, a very personal point of view, right? Which is what PBS goers like to see. And yes, you would probably, being a filmmaker yourself, you understand those constraints. That's not the story I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell a story that was really sort of historical and had many voices. Anyway, that said, and thanks to again everybody for coming. And especially want to thank, I don't know, how can we get this down? Sorry, I'm the singer. Thank you. Now Acha, so let me put some more stuff down. Yes, sorry. Acha, so I want to actually thank first of all Raza, who is a very busy man and has taken the time, and he always does that. He is just a wonderful colleague and friend. We've known each other now how long, Raza?
15-20 years.
है ना at least, और दरगाहों में भी हम गए हुए हैं, गाने भी गाए हुए हैं. I'm sorry, I lapse into Urdu now and then. I'll try not to do that. But Raza is a policy analyst. He's a journalist, an author, a man of many talents and skills. Right now, a distinguished lecturer at the Roosevelt House of Public Policy at Hunter College in New York. And before that, he served as director at the Park Center for Independent Media, which we desperately all need, at Ithaca College, where he was also a professor of journalism. He has served also at the Brooks, as a faculty member at the Brooks School of Public Policy in Cornell, taught at the Gallatin School of Individualized Study at NYU. And how I got to know him was as editor of one of Pakistan's very well-known and most popular weeklies in English, and that is the Friday Times. And I am very honored that I am also now on the board, thanks to Raza, and I write quite frequently for the Friday Times. He is also the founding editor of digital platforms, keeping right up with the times, Naya Daur Media, New Wave Global, and New Wave History, and he brings on incredibly, incredibly accomplished guests, scholars, speakers from all different backgrounds on these shows, and it's definitely worth checking out. He is also the author of Delhi by Heart, Impressions of a Pakistani Traveler from his trip to India, as well as The Fractious Path, Pakistan's Democratic Transition and Identity in Faith and Conflict. His most recent book is Being Pakistani, Society, Culture and the Arts, which was published in 2018 by HarperCollins in India. He has also co-edited a volume of essays entitled Rethinking Pakistan, published by Anthem Press in September 2022. So I would really like you to give a very warm round of applause.
Thank you so much, Fawzia, and it's a real privilege and an honor to be here. But more importantly, to celebrate Dr. Khan's great book and her works. You heard that she's authored 7 books, and there are many more in the pipeline. Some of them I know about, and the others I don't. But of course, as Fawzia mentioned, I've known her primarily as an editor. She used to write for the Friday Times, and she still writes, but regularly. We even serialized one of her memoirs in TFT, the
infamous.
The infamous, yeah. But when I met Dr. Fawzia Afzal-Khan, we had been corresponding via email, but then she was visiting Lahore, and she said, okay, let's meet, and we fixed a place which was, I think, one of the shrines, Sufi shrines in Lahore. And she said, I'm going to be there after 10 p.m. with my friends, so come and meet me there. So I went there, and I said, let me meet this English professor. And the English professor was dancing away. So this was, in Pakistan, well, at the Sufi shrines, some of them are pretty heterogeneous and hybrid. But there, Fawzia was totally unmoved by who was around, and dancing away on the Sufi music and dhol with her friends, etc. So that was our first meeting, and of course then we struck a very close friendship, and I'm really honored that to have a friend and a comrade and a guide in her who not only has helped me navigate my path in the United States, but is a constant go-to person when it comes to anything to do with scholarship or academic work. So without further ado, this book, as you know from the documentary, traces the history of Pakistani female singers through the decades, and in a way it is not just about those particular individuals, which Fawzia very painstakingly paints their work and their contributions, but also a kind of a social history of Pakistan through the prism and the lens of women singers. It's a very unique effort, and I think that is something that Fawzia, I would start our conversation with that. You use these different characters. We saw some of them: Malka Pukhraj, Noor Jahan, Madam Noor Jahan, who your documentary says is was there right at the start of Pakistan, and then Malka Roshanara Begum and others, and how they represented Pakistan's both cultural transformation, national identity, and so why did you use this frame? I think that would be very important to start with.
So you mean by the frame as the women singers, using them as a heuristic, right, a device to help us unpack and understand the cultural, the history of the culture, the society, the political scene, right, of Pakistan. And so, yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons certainly is that, women, and particularly women singers, women performers have been, while everybody enjoys their music, we know how deeply rooted that music is in every class, every background person of Pakistani or South Asian descent more broadly. The women are not seen as the makers of history. They are not seen as vital to helping us understand the nation state, its various stages, its various challenges, its various permutations. So for me, myself having been exposed to music from a very young age, wanting at one stage to become a musician myself, I understood somehow, right, that these women were essential to what we call, once I started doing all the scholarly work, that they provide us with a micro-historical perspective. So this is not dominant history from the top, right, which is written primarily by men, and generally national histories tend to be masculinist. So for me, as a feminist, self-identified feminist, a woman who has spent her time really thinking about these questions of gender and sexuality and class and gender and religion, and how women as a class, and of course there are many classes of women, but women as really a heuristic device, right? What can they teach us? From their eyes, what might we start paying attention to or looking at that we otherwise are not encouraged to do? Yeah. And so for me, that was really the reason that I chose women singers as this kind of way in to unpacking some of these discourses around nation, state, citizenship, etc.
Exactly, and I think, so your documentary also talked about these different eras, the authoritarian or hybrid democratic eras, and how the book also comments quite a bit on the larger context in which these women singers operated. So tell us how these female artists or women artists navigated these political storms and turbulence in a very patriarchal setting. And maybe I think the audience for those who have not read the book, it would be great sort of window into the work. But before I say that, I mean, I must say that Dr. Fawzia Afzal-Khan is not the typical ivory tower academic, because she is also a mega practitioner. And as I mentioned, from her musical, she's not just a scholar of music, but also a practitioner. We met at the Sufi Shrine. I've mentioned that she's also very active in her, at the forefront of activism, whether it is women's rights, and these days, for the last 2 years, she's been engaged in protests that I can't name because I'll be deported. So she brings that sort of practice and the polymath side to her work. Yeah.
So, well, thank you. I mean, in a way, yes, I would agree with you just with that last bit about activism being, and which is one of the reasons that attracts me also to the women singers that I selected to sort of take us through the early years and, through the years of Zia and into slightly more contemporary times. Because I see them as cultural activists as well, Raza. So, because I think through their music, through their art, through their insistence on keeping that alive, despite societal prejudice on the one hand, and then state curbs and controls on the other, or sometimes in the early years, the state, and especially including in the early years when Pakistan needed to figure out what its ideology was as a nation state. And so you had always, even when it was not Islamist, And we've been talking about the difference between Islamism and just Islam as a faith in my classes. But Islamist as a political ideology, and it hadn't gotten there, which I think it got to during the Zia years, right? But prior to that, the state ideology still was very anti-music, because this was Pakistan that had been formed out of the crucible of partition. Millions of people had been killed. Pakistan needed to define itself in contradistinction to India, which is really what it was always a part of. And so music kind of took a hit in that ideological, cooking of let's say, the cooking of ideology, of Pakistani state ideology. And music became suspect. And this was so paradoxical and contradictory, as you saw also on the film, because these are South Asian people who love music in every shape, way, guise and form, including music sung by women. But women take a particular hit in nationalist ideology anyway. This happened on both sides, not just Pakistan, but also India. It happens everywhere. We've been discussing nationalism. I mean, we've looked at Algeria in one of my classes, right, recently. And I mean, when these countries like Pakistan came to be, right, coming out of a colonial era, a British colonial era, right, that did lead to a certain kind of nationalism coming out of it, which was very much an Ashrafiya nationalism by male nationalists who were part of the Ashrafiya or respectable classes. And for them, they wanted to define this question of honor of their women that they could take back from the colonizers who came in a way to take over cultural forms, to take over the land which was always feminized, right? So then women become the crucible of honor. And if they are the crucible of honor, then they can't be seen singing and dancing and performing in public, sort of like what you saw me doing. That just doesn't fit respectability politics. So I think these were unfortunate, they were victims of that kind of tussle to formulate a national identity. And of course then, by the time we get to the 80s, we get to Zia-ul-Haq, thanks to the United States coming in, Saudi Arabia. I mean, these are external factors, like Raza says. Indigenously, this ideology is quite alien to us. But there were geopolitical reasons for what was happening. And, we know that Zia was brought to power, kept in power by these foreign interventions, the creation of madrasas, the creation of a very extremist mindset in there, the rise of the Pakistani Taliban. You yourself know this, you have experienced a lot of this personally. And then what unfolded, what was unfolding in Afghanistan and how Pakistan became a frontline state in that. All of that, including then we see women who become targets of the Taliban and who are killed just for wanting to sing and perform. So through these various stages, we see an unfolding of the history of Pakistan. And when you look at it from the lives and from the experiences and the various resistances that these women singers very bravely put on, knowing sometimes that it may cost them their lives, and sometimes it did. I think that says it all, that their perspective is something that we must appreciate, learn from, and maybe use it to challenge some of the strictures and conventions that we have become trapped in.
Yeah, so, well, great, because I was going to ask you, because many of these characters in your book, they stand out as icons of resistance, right? And so among the various, lives that you explore in the book, who stands out? I'm sure they all have very interesting and burning stories, but there's one particular example that you'd like to cite, and why and how?
That's a tough one, Raza, because really, when you write a book, you stay with the material for years and years, right? And then this one started as a film first, so there was all of that. Then hunting out the women who were my idols, but who were by then already quite old, some of them dead, some of them unavailable for reasons of, being very ill or etc. And so, but going through that process, getting to know some of them
finding out where some of them were living, and they were living in, some of them in penury because the state had not taken care of them, right? Had not given them that what they deserved for their huge contributions to the society and culture. I mean, just that process was very humbling. And it made me really appreciate these women singers of Pakistan in a very new and a more profound way, because of course I am from a middle Ashrafi class myself, and I'm very much a part of an ideological, I carry that baggage myself. I mean, like I say, when I wanted, and I told my parents I didn't want to be a singer, they said that's ridiculous, this is not a possibility. I mean, just because we have allowed you and encouraged you to learn how to sing, I mean, singing on, as a public singer, this is not acceptable. I think some of that, by the way, has changed, because there are women from these sort of respectable middle classes coming out who are taking to that profession, so things do change. Even, and that's part of the paradox, right? That on the one hand there are constraints, on the other hand something happens. But amongst these women, to go back to your question, it's very hard, but I can say that Madam Noorjan, okay, now that was a woman. She did not give two hoots. I mean, she was such a huge talent. Obviously that helps when you are floating up there, and everybody, including those who hold their noses at Bazari Aurtein, right, which is what she was considered, a woman of the bazaar, somebody who sells herself, she, I can't give you this gesture, but she just couldn't care. She couldn't care two hoots. So she lived life completely on her own terms. She married as many men as she wanted, divorced as when they didn't please her, jumped out of windows if that's what needed to be done to run away from, societal disapprobation. But all of that, she continued her own one true love. I mean, the men were unimportant, society was the only thing that mattered to her was music. And being true and faithful to the music, creating the best music possible. And I mean, as Lata Mangeshkar, used to say of Mehdi Hasan, Bhagwan bolta hai. Bhagwan to iske gale mein bolta tha. She really was, it was like one of the purest singing voices ever. And she also challenged nationalist ideology. People remember her for her taranas, Qawmi taranas, which are these, patriotic anthems that she was asked to sing. And then, of course, all of a sudden, during the wars, with the various wars with India, but 65 war in particular, that became such a popular one, and people said, oh my God, and then the elite leaders and people are saying oh no, she is the voice of the nation, and we are so proud. But she must have laughed, because these are women who also knew and understood that how they were really looked at and judged by the same people. Now they needed her, so they are like, okay, come and sing. And she did, she believed in it, she sang. But she also sort of, I feel, if you pay close attention, and I've written about this in my chapter, pay close attention also to the wording and how she sang it and what followed before and after, and how she ended up then after that going to India, what she said in India when Dilip Kumar and they invited her 30 years after partition. It's very, very clear that she was a sly subversive, and that even as she is being lauded for singing about, patriotic this, that and the other, she is not interested in nationalist discourses that separate people, and that, she very much believed in the power of music to bring people across the border together, because she says, you are all, I love you all of you, and you love me. I mean, what are these borders that we have set up, right? And we see how terrible that has been historically, and of course now what is happening in India, it's terrible for Muslims, the rise of Hindutva, and I mean, it sort of mirrors the rise of Islamist extremism in other places, including across the border. So I think these singers and someone like Noor Jahan, but also the others that I talk about, they really, they were intellectuals, they were activists, they were artists, what I say, artivists, who questioned nationalism and nationalist ideologies that divide people instead of bringing them together. And we see how that is playing out today with the closing of borders everywhere.
Yeah, we are short of time because we have so one or two last things I wanted to ask you. One was, of course, the writing style. So the book is, you know, part critical theory, part reflection, part interviews, and then it emanates from your documentary making experience. So unlike your other scholarly highbrow work, so how was this experience? Because I'm sure some people would like to hear about that. From a writing
Thank you for that
perspective.
question. I mean, I think I would say that that comes out of a, you know, this is a book that comes towards the end of, you know, later or after those early books when, you know, you are looking for tenure and you're looking for your promotion in academia and you have to write in a certain voice and you have to please those that can only understand writing or books that fit those criteria. So by the time this project, you know, evolved, I was in a very different place. I was much more confident about who I was, and like Noor Jahan, I couldn't give two hoots. So this was really for me. I wanted to do this project because it pleased me. It took me back to my roots. It took me back to my own somewhat thwarted passion for being, you know, a musician and a singer. And I wanted to pay homage to these women. And I didn't think, you know, and I wanted to give them that, you know, that space that was recognized in academia. These are women who needed to be lifted up. This is not a, in other words, this is not a popular story, even though it, you know, written in a completely popular style, because while I do make use of personal life examples and memoiristic insertions, I'm very careful that I bring in theoretical, as you said, issues, theoretical ways of thinking about culture, about gender, about class, much of it, of course, Euro-American theorists, but I was also at this point very careful. I wanted to excavate and look into, as someone trying to decolonize my own mind, right, to do the, to look at our indigenous artists, writers, theorists, people like Faiz Ahmed Faiz, you know, and I use him and I cite him, and I think that he really did create a new way of thinking about, critically and theoretically, about what it means to be a Pakistani. What should the role of arts be? What should the role of culture be in bringing this nation into, you know, what kind of nation do we want? And I think from that I could extrapolate things that then became useful in talking about these women. And you know, this is also then latter day feminist theorists in the West came up with affect theory. Yeah. And you know, as and I thought, okay, we know what affect theory is, because we do not separate mind from emotion or the head from the heart from our part of the world. Yeah. And so this kind of mixture of styles, it allowed me to do that, to heal that divide as well.
Yeah. Since we have so many students here, so that's my final question, you know, what would you like to say from the...
Who's your favorite? That's
I mean, based on the experiences and the histories that you collate in this book, what is there for the students to learn, or the younger artists, or the broader, or even other older students that you have?
Well, I just want to say that, you know, these students really, it's more what I'm learning from them, I think. And one of the things that I'm learning from them is the importance of resilience. And sometimes in difficult moments like this, there are times when they express, you know, feeling not quite as strong, or if not strong is not the right word, but you know what I mean, right? I mean, they feel sometimes disheartened And I think what can be gotten certainly from the stories of the lives of the women singers in this book is that no matter, right, what challenges come your way, no matter if you lose your home, which many of them did, no matter if you end up somewhere where you are being told, as Roshanara Begum herself was, that, you know, she had to do things a certain way, or for a long time she wasn't even, her own husband who had said, you can, I'm marrying you but you can sing, did not allow her to sing up in Pakistan. It was a battle she had to fight. So you fight for what you believe in. Whether you are a singer, an artist, whether your goal is to become an academic, to become an engineer, I have many STEM and engineering students, whatever it is, right? You go for your dreams and you don't let anyone or anything stand in your way. And that is the lesson that I think these women give us.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, we have a musical performance and that shall begin shortly for about half an hour or so. So thank you so much for your attention.
And after that, please join us, Raza and everyone. There will be a small reception outside catered by Rahat Bakers. So I want to say one thing, that my student here, Zoha, told me about it. She says, Rahat Bakers? I said, Rahat Bakers? That's from Lahore? Yeah. She says, yeah. And there is in Princeton a Rahat Bakers. And so we have a few treats from them outside with some chai, some tea. So please do stick around for that. And yes, this is a complete indulgence. I get to sing because, of course, I love to sing and don't get too many opportunities. And I want to really first ask you to to applaud my wonderful, wonderful musical support team here, the musicians. Yeah, Nasir, Rohan and Mike. So Nasir, many of you know, and he is a man of many, many talents, and I won't say very much about that, but except that you will hear this particular talent. But he is also a professor of psychiatry and many other wonderful things. And of course our darling Tahira's son, and Michael there, who is adjusting the speaker, is a wonderful tabla player. So you have to pay attention to them rather than to me, because they are really very professional musicians. I'm a little, and I'm very honored that they have agreed to sorry. Okay, this should work. And I need my So, I just wanted to say that we're going to start with something, you heard a mention of the importance of classical music, which by the way was also banned in the during the years of, first few years of Zia. And Roshanara Begum, who is one of the first people that I write about in the book, was an amazing classical singer. There are many different schools, and her school was the Karana Gharana, which is also the school in which I was trained. But I'm singing something lighter to start us off with, and it is a Thumri, which is also a classical, but more a sort of semi-classical form. And I hope you will enjoy it, and please excuse any errors, which you probably won't realize I will. Okay. This is in Rag Khamaj. So all of our music is based in the sea of, how do you explain a rag? Difficult. Raga.
A sea of sound.
Sound and resonance and sea of notes and, but we can't get into all the things, otherwise we'll be here forever.
अच्छा जी. So this kind of music is meant to be sung. This piece alone could be sung for at least a couple of hours. How many are really freaking out when they? But we are going to. This is like being on a fast train. So this is all just to give you an idea of different genres and modes, things that I discuss also in the book, and some stuff that is really bizarre in my own creation. Enjoy. And there are some musicians, I'm very worried what these musicians or musical type of people, my dear friend Shazia will catch me out immediately, I'm sure. करने को दिल चाहे आप जरूर करें. There is a way that this music should be heard and appreciated. So this is the season of love, dear students, and dear friends, it is fleeting, very sad, and where is the beloved? This is basically all our music is about this. Savan bito jaye, bito jaye. Savan bito jaye.
सावन सावन तो जाए बेहरवा मन मेरा घबराए मन मेरा सारी दवा मगर Gare magare sa ma pari ne 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 sa gare ga 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 gare sa re ga ma ma gare sa savan ni to jaye beharwa घबराए मन मेरा घबराए मोरा जिया मुझसे बोले सारे गरे मगरे पामगरे मगरे सारे गरे मगरे पामगरे मगरे सारे गरे मगरे पामगरे मगरे सावन भी तो जाए बेहरवा बेहरवा सावन 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 तो जाए बेहरवा सावन भी तो जाए बेहर बेहर बेहरवा सावन भी तो जाए सावन भी तो जाए सावन भी तो जाए बेहरवा
So I want to thank Mike on the tablas. He was playing a very wonderful tal that I've just only learned, Sitar Khani tal, which is 16 beats, and it's all very complicated, but he played it so beautifully, and I somehow managed for most of it to stay in there. Luna, hi! This is a star student from Montclair going to, did you accept?
Very close to, but pretty much at Carnegie Mellon.
Whoa! All right. And mother. Very nice to meet you. Okay, moving right along. Moving right along. Okay, guys, what are we doing next? Oh yes, so now we want to do something from the sacred tradition. So I'm gonna now run through these because we do want to end at a reasonable time so you can have your chai. You're supposed to say no! Sing! Sing!
ishq diya. Long and crooked and winding is the way of love. Allahu सख्त सज़ा इश्क दिया अल्लाहू अल्लाहू अल्लाह 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 अल्लाहू बाजारो छावे इश्क नच्चा छड़दा फुल्ला वर्गी जिंदड़ी नू इश्क रुला छड़दा सर बाजारो छावे इश्क नच्चा छड़दा ओए कख न छड़े वेख वफा वा इश्क दिया औखे कहंदे लम्बियां राहां इश्क दिया अल्लाहू Allahu Allah Allahu Allahu Allah Allahu Allahu Nasir Naqvi on bass, nice. Lukshis on tablas and Rohan Prabhudesai on the keyboard and harmonium. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to Rag Malkons and something very interesting is going to happen. That is unexpected for those who know Rag Malkons. Not for the rest of you. You will be very happy when the unexpected. Okay.
ga ma ma ga ga ma da ni ni sa ni sa ni sa ni dha ma ga ma ga sa ni ni da da ma ga ni sa ga ma ga sa. Ni मैं पिया संग लड़े पछतानी नी मैं पिया संग लड़े पछतानी देखो ऐसी मत की हानि नी मैं पिया संग लड़े पछता पिया संग लड़ पछतानी पिया पिया and summertime were in the same. Summertime is in Rag Malkos actually. Summertime, and the living is easy. Oh, the fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Oh, your dad is rich and your mom is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. संग लड़ पछता पिया संग लड़ पछतानी दिताना दिताना दे देना ताना दे रे दिताना दिताना दे देना ताना दे रे ना दिन दानो ताना ना ना दे रे ना ताना दे ताना दे देना ताना दे ना दे दे दी दी ताना ना 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 दे ना ना दे दे दी दी ताना ना 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 दे ना ताना दे ना summertime and the living is easy. Thank you. Or shall we just go to... Huh? Cutoff is 6:30, so what is it?
बहुत टाइम
बहुत टाइम है अच्छा ये
15 मिनट है आपके पास
15 मिनट है we have 15 minutes 15 I like this I have these fabulous musicians. I just want to keep playing with them. They're so good. I'm having fun. I don't know if you guys are having fun, but I'm having fun. Keep going on. Carry on. Very lovely. sing, okay.
Keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on, yes. We need to hear that. So, I'm so excited that I think my watch thinks I've taken a fall. Fever, never know how much I love you. Never know how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever. It's so hard to bear. You give me fever. तेरे कोल रहना कहंदे नैना दिलदा है तू ही कहना कहंदे नैना तेरे बिन चैन नहीं आंदा तू मिले चैन मिल जांदा नारा नीरा नारा नीरा नारा नीरा नारा दू बारी 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 बारू बारी तेरे बिन चैन नहीं आंदा तू मिले चैन मिल जांदा माही वे चल वे तेनू हो की कहना कहंदे नैना never know how much I love you. Never know how much I care. Would you put your arms around me? I get a fever. Fever that is so hard to bear. You give me fever. Okay, so where is my time keeper?
More time.
So we have, maybe can we do two short songs, you think? Okay. So this is a folk song that was popularized by one of my favorite folk singers, all of us I think know Reshma. And yeah, it was very tragic. When I tried to meet her, to interview her, she already had terrible mouth and throat cancer and could not talk. And this was a singer. It was very tragic and of course, you know, pretty much in penury. It was really very tragic. But so this is for her, and also it's been done by new, younger, what I call Sufi pop singers of the Coke studio generation. I think you all know which one this is. मैं चोरी चोरी तेरे नाल लियां खां
वे मैं चोरी चोरी तेरे नाल चोरी चोरी तेरे नाल लालियां खां. Yeah, you can do this. दुनिया तो जगाते मैं दुनिया दुनिया वे मैं चोरी चोरी तेरे नाल interesting note. I hope that you will appreciate it. Okay, lots of things happening in this song. Trying my hand at Italian. Any Italian speakers? Thank God I can say anything. That means they'll think it's... All right. And let's see. Asking you for the drink. It's really a band called Pink Martini. Una notte a Napoli, na 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 na. Una
una notte a Bristone con la luna e il mare ho incontrato un angelo che non poteva poi volare. Una notte a Napoli, una notte a Napoli, della stella si scordò e anche Sanzali in cielo mi portò. Con lui volando lontano dalla terra, dimenticando le tristezze della sera, in paradiso oltre le nuvole, passa d'amore come le lucciole. Quanto tempo puoi durare, quante notti da sognare, quante ore, quanti giorni, crisi infinita. La 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 la. हम देखेंगे, हम देखेंगे, लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे। Una notte a Napoli con la luna e il mare ho incontrato un angelo che non poteva poi volare. ये कितने दिन और ये कितनी रातें गुजरी है जुल्म का सामना करते हुए मौत भी है मुमकिन, घबराना नहीं, हक को हासिल करना है। Al fiore del partigiano, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 che sto al fiore del partigiano morto per la libertà. Che sto al fiore del partigiano, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, 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 che sto al fiore del partigiano morto per la libertà. That was our little revolutionary conclusion, just in case you didn't get it. Thank you so much. Please enjoy some of the goodies outside. I hope they've been
We have
ready.
a small session, Q&A.
Oh yes, we have the Q&A. We can't keep people sitting and they're not like that. Yes,
So
yes.
we-
Thank you,
and
Rosa. Thank you.
reading.
And a reading? No,
Yes.
no reading. Okay.
We can keep going.
Or we can keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to? Nasir
Wait,
wants to.
I want to sing one for a friend of mine here. One thing. ये एक ये है ये गौरी है, ब्रावो, गौरी बंदा है, यहाँ बैठा हुआ ठहरे जरा। Okay, this is यावर शाह, ये तुम्हारे लिए।
Everyone here, except for these young girls, we all have some daghega. Can't go through life without
hurt in the heart.
Hurt in the heart. Hurt in the heart. We all hurt in the heart. Thank you so much. Sad song to end on, but it's a very beautiful ghazal and sung by one of our wonderful women singers. So, Raza, do we have a few minutes for Q&A?
We have 10 minutes, yeah.
Wonderful, come on up, please. And it would be lovely to have a conversation. Any questions? Nothing is off limits. I'll regret that.
So questions, or you want to ask G?
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I trace my background from grandparents born in Lahore, parents actually born in Lahore, Rawalpindi,
and Gujranwala. But of course, during partition, everybody came this side. But I think being a Punjabi, the difficulty is there are more Punjabis in Pakistan than in India, right? So when I look at myself, the way I dress, what I like, clothes, jewelry, everything, and like I feel like more connected to the Punjabi culture at large, right, than the rest of India. Like I've never worn a sari in my entire life. That's just an example. And I do my Kashmiri shawls and Lucknow kadhai and everything. So that's the hard part, right? And then to see your story where you're saying, oh my God, the women singers, but when I look at today, I think some of the best music is actually Coke Studio. So I'm surprised, maybe is it the depth of the Sufi singing that's allowed it to be, like, I don't think there's even music in India anywhere that's anywhere close to that. Like Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, he performed, so it just, so on the one hand, you're saying you feel like it was taken away from you and suppressed, and on the other hand, I feel like it's the best music I've ever heard in my life. So that's the contradiction. Like, I mean, Ali Sethi, we heard him, we're going for his concert soon. So it's just amazing. So I don't know, I'm kind of,
So that's a great question. Thank you so much for saying what you did and for bringing that up. So, I mean, I talk about the paradox, right? I mean, everything is paradoxical, and Pakistan is really a nation of paradoxes. So on the one hand, we have, that is clear what was taken away, and that is still, at the official state narrative thing, at the state level, not very much has been done for the arts, and music has definitely suffered. We do not have a culture of deep engagement with respect, especially for our, the maestros who came, who were, trained in particularly classical music. That has really been dying out. However, because of that decline, there is always subversion, and there are always people who are going to bring it back or try their level best to do that. So that has been going on, and even during Zia's Islamization years, there was a lot of music. Much of it was underground, but it was there. And in one of my cuts in the film, Tahira Sayyed, the daughter, a wonderful singer herself and daughter of Malika Pukhraj, actually says that is the paradox. That on the one hand, you have these strictures and these clamp downs, at the level of the state, but people are not, you can't keep them down, and the music is in our soul, it's in our blood, it's in our heart. I mean, it's going to continue. When it comes to the, Coke Studio you mentioned, which is a very contemporary phenomenon, Kab se shuru hua, where I've written about it, so it's not terribly new because it's in my book, but yeah, so it's been ongoing, and I think this is one of the things that Hadika also mentioned in the film that you saw. You see, that is another paradox. You have multinational companies. I mean, Coke really, and right now we're certainly not going to be drinking Coca-Cola. So the point is, these are formations that are thrown up through this kind of neoliberal capitalist model that we live in, right? And it has some advantages. It goes in, it can do something, it can provide a kind of a stage, a performance space. But like Hadika said, you can't, concerts to koi bhi nahi kar raha hai. Nobody's doing. I remember years going to Lahore after, the Zia years, and it was picking up again. We had those big, the Peer brothers used to do huge concerts in Lahore, taking over the entire stadium and so on. I performed there as well. It used to be, wonderful, mad fun, but they can't do it because, security situation goes up, goes down. Sometimes it looks better, but it's generally bad news. And they are not going to do it. So those kinds of venues of public, huge public performances, they are really a thing of the past. That's just not happening. But they've started again, I hear, in Karachi, but big in the same way. So I don't know. Somebody did mention that, Karachi mein especially. Oh wow. Okay, so there I take that back. This is very good. So new age is coming. Mikal Hassan Band also, excellent. So this is good news,
And like I said, I mean, one of the things that has happened and the changes is that many women also, young women, I mean, they are coming out from different class backgrounds. They are not now only women. I mean, that era has passed, right, of the courtesans and so on and so forth. वो तो अब खत्म ही हो गया है ना, अब तो और लड़कियां आ रही हैं.
Any other questions? Or yeah.
Why did you call it Siren Song? Like, why is it called?
And I did want to say, please give a big round of applause to the Sirens, who are my backup. Thank you. So, yeah, Fawzia and the Sirens. Listen, Sirens because, and so it's interesting that I had all men and they're called Sirens. You know that, right? So, why did I call it Siren Song? Because I think these are, I wanted to indicate that women who are considered dangerous to, to the status quo, they're dangerous because they are existing on the edges of what is socially acceptable, like these women singers. They are sirens, but they also, so they entrap us, right? They bring us in, and they are the ones that we need to be empathizing with, not the other way around. I mean, it is a feminist trope, so for me, that was the reason that I kind of chose that title.
Great. Anything else? Anyone else? Ji.
This is amazing, wonderful, and maybe I'll just come closer. Sound we know is transformative. It's part of all our Sufi, our beginning of the world, sound being primordial. And it's interesting, just to add to the paradox, when I was in Karachi and at weddings, where where singing and music has continued beyond the shrines, and they even sing Jai Jai Shiva Shankar. It's interesting to me that a lot of the Bollywood Hindu songs, the Hindu tradition, people don't have an issue with when it comes to music and joy, and a lot of that is being just an interesting paradox of how much that they're trying to separate the Hindu-Muslim ke mazhab mein, gana hai hamare mazhab mein. It's not quite apart from the shrines.
Absolutely, no, I mean, that's very true, and we've always had a tradition of that in our weddings, the mixing of all kinds of lexicons and ideas, ideologies, religious and it doesn't matter, right? It becomes secular in a way. It becomes because it enters, frankly, what I would argue is the space of the profane. So the profane and the sacred are actually very deeply intertwined. And unless we recognize that and we insist on separating them out and making binary divisions between these concepts, I think that's just a mistake. That's not how life is lived, and you pointed it out very well, as did the other. Yeah, I mean, our Sufi saints who were, considered to be deeply religious at one level, but they also were not following any kind of orthodoxy, right? And so they were challenging the state ideologies and any sort of orthodox ways of thinking about the religion of Islam, and they have left a very deep imprint on the entire South Asian subcontinental culture. And so that is part of what keeps music alive, absolutely. And I think Scope Studio has definitely, to go back to your point, taken up on that and really trying to recover those sounds and voices, right? Which I think is fantastic. So thank you for that, Azmi. I think that's very, very important to acknowledge.
Okay, yes. So here's the man behind the woman. Please give him a big hand.
Fawz, when you were showing the movie...
Can you stand up so we can hear you?
On the chair. My knees hurt. So when you were showing the movie, I kept thinking of Nawal.
Nawal El-Sadawi, my good friend.
So maybe you knew her very well, so maybe you can make some
comment
regarding these strong women through these across these national boundaries.
Thank you so much for reminding me of Nawal, who was, as I mentioned to my students as well, on more than one occasion. She was a very dear friend, and definitely left big. She played an important part in my own sort of intellectual growth. She loved the arts, and she loved music, and she experienced many, it was very similar Egyptian society of that era. She was, several decades older to me, but she grew up in Egypt, which she had seen that prior to the sort of rise of Islamism across the Arab and Muslim world, and so she knew Egypt in a very different way, the way that we did, right? And then we saw the change that came, and for her also, it, meant that she became the object of a lot of attacks because of her very unorthodox views and her questioning of actually of religion. I mean, she was a Marxist and a feminist, and she didn't believe in religion, and she said, I have a right to say that, but she was considered an apostate. And religious extremists did come after her many, many times. So she does hang over this, my own thinking, but she was also a great lover of art and music, and I remember she invited me to Egypt once for a conference. I was part of this transnational gathering of women called the Arab Association, the Arab Women's Association, and she had revived it. And we were taken out for a dinner on one of these big Ramses II or something, one big boat, on the Nile River. And she said, I want you to sing. And she always would say, oh, I love to hear you sing. So I have very fond memories, and she would always say whenever she would be speaking in public anywhere, she would go, Fawzia, you will sing now. So I said, okay, no, I will sing now. That's my bad Arab accent. But yeah, I mean, women like her, I have long admired. Fatima Mernissi, another one from Morocco. So these are transnational connections amongst, women of various generations, all of Muslim background, but having known Islam in very different contexts and ways than, I think contemporary manifestations that we see. So thank you for that.
Great.
Thank you, and let's go have some time. Thank you all for coming.
क्या बात
She's almost dead. Yeah, go by Nani.
Wow, your life is
So